Welcome students to the Assam History lecture. Today we are discussing the medieval history part 8. So this is a very important class as here we will discuss the important battles, treaties and revolts occurred in the medieval history of Assam. So this classes is basically on the new pattern of APSC for the upcoming prelims and the mains examination. So as we have already covered, the Assam history can be divided into 5 parts. Now the first is prehistory period, then ancient period, then medieval. In medieval, we are currently covering the medieval, and next today and plus one more class we will cover the entire medieval history of Assam. And this medieval history of Assam is very important, especially the era of the Ahom kingdom. And then from next week we will begin the modern history and the post independence history. So by next week we will complete the Assam history part, and then we will begin Assam geography. So in medieval history we study the fall. The medieval history begins from the fall of the Pala dynasty of ancient Kamrupa and the first Mohammedan invasion of Kamrupa. Then we have studied the kingdom of Komota, the Sutia kingdom, the Barobhuyas, the Khen dynasty, the Koch dynasty, Kosari kingdom, Joyanta kingdom. We have studied the Ahom kingdom in depth, and we have also studied the Burmese War and East India Company. So in this class we will study the very important battles of medieval history, Assam history, important treaties and the important revolts during the medieval history of Assam. So starting with the significant battles of medieval history of Assam, now we are studying the 4 important battles of Assam. As we all know, the Battle of Saraighat, but apart from Battle of Saraighat, there was Alaboi Ron or War of Alaboi, then Itakuli Ron, and there was a Lotakota Ron. So let us see what are these battles were exactly, and we have to study them from our exam point of view. So the first battle or first war we are studying is the Alaboi Ron or War of Alaboi. So Alaboi battle is a landmark in the history of Assam. So students, whenever we study the important revolts or important battles, we have to know first 2 things: the king, the if it is happening in the Ahom period, the name of the Ahom king. So the name of the Ahom king under which the Alaboi Ron happened was Supangmung or Sakrodhos Kingho, and it was in the year August 14, 1669. So this is very important: Ahom king and the date of the battle. So the battle was fought between the invader Mughals and the Ahom army on August 14, 1669 at Alaboi. So Alaboi is a place near the Dodora, which is in the Kamrup rural district now, which is rather in the Kamrup district now, and nearly 10,000 Assamese soldiers laid down their lives for the sovereignty of Assam in this war. So the Alaboi Ron was not very good or from the positive aspects on the Ahom kingdom, because the Ahom lost many soldiers in this battle, but this emboldened the Ahom king for retaliation after 2 years. So this Alaboi Ron was lost, but it gave the necessary boost or motivation to the Ahom king, because after 2 years under the generalship of Lasit Borphukon, the Battle of Saraighat was fought, where the Mughal soldiers under the commandership of Ram Singha met their Waterloo at the hands of Assamese soldiers, and thus expansionist policy of the Mughals to annex Assam was eliminated. So though the Alaboy Ron was lost, but it paved the way for better preparations in the Battle of Saraighat. So we will study the Battle of Saraighat in quite a detail. So the loss at Alaboy Ron gave the Ahom kingdom the necessary learnings which helped them to rectify the mistakes and subsequently prepare well and win the Battle of Saraighat. So we will study Battle of Saraighat in quite a detail. So next is the Battle of Saraighat. The Ahom king under which the Battle of Saraighat was fought was Sunatpha or Udayaditya Singha. Though the preparations for the Battle of Saraighat was made under Sakodhar Singha itself, but Sakodhar Singha died, and then Udayaditya Singha took the place in his place and became the king, Ahom king, and the year. So whenever you study the Battle of Saraighat from basically prelims point of view, you have to know the Ahom king. You have to know the Ahom king and the year in which it was fought. So the Battle of Saraighat was a naval battle. So we will see how it was fought in Brahmaputra in a diagram in our subsequent slides. So the Battle of Saraighat was a naval battle fought in 1671 between the Mughal Empire led by the Khwacha king Raja Ram Singh I and the Ahom kingdom led by Lasit Borphukan on the Brahmaputra river at Saraighat, now in Guwahati, Assam. So although weaker, so in comparison to the Mughal army, the Ahom army was weaker, but the Ahom army defeated the Mughal army by brilliant uses of the terrain, means the geographic location, clever diplomatic negotiations to buy time, guerrilla tactics, psychological warfare, military intelligence, and by exploiting the sole weakness of the Mughal forces, its navy. So since the Mughal was in the Indian subcontinent, so it was primarily an army, but its navy was quite weak. The Battle of Saraighat was the last battle in the last major attempt by the Mughals to extend their empire into Assam. Though the Mughals managed to regain Guwahati briefly after a later Borphukan deserted it, the Ahoms wrested control in the Battle of Itakuli in 1682 and maintained it till the end of their rule. So we know in Guwahati we have a Digholi Pukhuri, as many of you will know. The Digholi Pukhuri was the naval dockyard. The Digholi Pukhuri was naval dockyard. So right now between the Brahmaputra river and the Digholi Pukhuri, there are the high courts, the Hotel Brahmaputra Ashok. So these establishments did not exist earlier. The Digholi Pukhuri is straight linked to the river Brahmaputra, and if in war times the naval ships were taken out from the port of Digholi Pukhuri, and after the war is over, they were again shipped in the dockyard of Digholi Pukhuri. So this is the proof of the, these are some of the last proofs which remain till now of the Battle of Saraighat of Ahom era in Guwahati. Now to give a brief background about the Battle of Saraighat and how it occurred, Naranarayan, the Koch king Naranarayan, died in 1587. So these dates are very important. Naranarayan died in 1587 because after his death only the Koch kingdom split into two parts. So we will study, we have already studied that in our Koch kingdom classes in our earlier lectures. So students, you can go through them also. So Naranarayan died in 1587. The Koch kingdom was divided into the Western Koch Bihar and the Eastern Koch Hazo. Now Western Koch Bihar was ruled by the Naranarayan's son Lakshmi Narayan, and the Eastern Koch Hazo was ruled by Raghudev, son of Silarai, who is the brother of Naranarayan. So during Naranarayan Silarai, the Koch kingdom reached its zenith. But once Silarai and Naranarayan died, then their respective sons took control over the western and eastern sides, and these two kingdoms became bitter rivals. However, in due course time, the Mughals formed an alliance with Lakshmi Narayan, that is the Coach Bihar, and the Nawab of Dhaka, a governor of the Mughals, attacked Parikshit Narayan, which is the son of Raghudev and who is the son of Silarai. So the Mughals used this rivalry between the two kingdoms for their benefit, and after many battles, Parikshit, the son of Raghudev, ruler of the eastern Koch Hazo, finally accepted defeat and was sent off to Delhi. But his brother Bali Narayana took refuge with the Ahoms. Now the Ahoms were interested in keeping the Koch as a buffer between themselves and the Mughals. So if this is the Assam map, so as we have studied, the Ahoms were here. Okay, so here was the Kosari king, here was the Jaintia king. So here was the Koch kingdom. So this part became the Koch Bihar, and this part became the Koch Hazo. And here were in the Bengal, it was the Mughals. So in between the Mughals and the Ahoms, there was the Koch kingdom. So the Ahoms tried to keep the Koch kingdom as a buffer, as in the middle between the Mughals and the Ahoms. Now, the first Mughal and Ahom battle took place in 1615 when the Mughals attacked the Ahoms under Pratap Singh. Now, this resulted in a period of Ahom-Mughal conflicts. Fluctuating fortunes means sometimes Ahoms win or sometimes Mughals face defeat. And then the conflicts ended in the Treaty of Osrur Ali. Now this we will study in our next slides the various treaties. So the Treaty of Osrur Ali, the year is important, 1639. So a prelims based question will come on the important treaties. There are 4 or 5 important treaties in the medieval history of Assam. One question is bound to come in the upcoming prelims exam. Students, please make a note of it. The treaty fixed Bornodi river in the north bank and Osrur Ali in the south bank of the Brahmaputra. So as per the treaty, the Bornodi river in the north bank and the Osrur Ali in the south bank of Brahmaputra as the boundary between the Mughals and the Ahoms. And this and the defeat of the Koch kingdom at Pandu resulted in a period of Mughal administration in Kamrup, that is Guwahati and Hazo. So there was a brief period where Mughal administration was there in Kamrup in the medieval period. Now, taking advantage of the Mughal war of succession after the fall of Emperor Shah Jahan. So after Shah Jahan died in 1658, his sons fought for the succession in the throne. Pran Narayan of Koch Bihar tried to occupy Koch Hazo, but Ahoms under Joydhar Singh took Guwahati and pushed Pran Narayan back to beyond Dhuburi, that is in the Koch Bihar region. So soon after, Aurangzeb occupied the Delhi throne. So among the sons of Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb took control and occupied the Delhi throne. Mir Jumla II, pursuing Shah Shuja in Bengal, was appointed in the Subedar of Bengal in 1660 and asked to retake Assam. So then Aurangzeb appointed Mir Jumla to retake Assam. So Mir Jumla reached Assam and marched in 1661 and defeated the Ahoms at successive encounters and finally take the Ahom kingdom, Gorgaon. So Mir Jumla occupied Ahom capital Gorgaon. But the Daga Juddha or the guerrilla warfare of Oton Borgohain, so we will see who is this Oton Borgohain, because he plays an important role in the Battle of Saraighat along with Lasit Borphukon. So we all have heard of Lasit Borphukon, but very few know about Oton Buragohain, because he was also a very able leader of the Battle of Saraighat. So the guerrilla warfare of Otono Buragohain and the monsoon rains, succeeded in cutting off Mughal communication lines, making it impossible for Mir Jumla to consolidate Mughal rule. And unaware of Mir Jumla's difficulties and unnerved by Baduli Phukon's defection, Joydhar Singh, the Ahom king, Joydhar Singh, agreed for peace and opportunity, on which Mir Jumla seized on. So this led to the Treaty of Khilajari Ghat. So this is another very important treaty, Khilajari Ghat, 1663. So dates are very important, students. You remember the dates of the important treaties. Brought an end to Mughal occupation of Gorgaon, but the conditions of the treaty were so severe that Ahoms were soon resolved to reverse them. Sorry. So the terms of the Treaty of Khilajari Ghat in 1663 were very humiliating for the Ahoms, and they soon resolved to reverse the agreement or the treaty. Now, Ahom preparations for war. So, since the treaty was very humiliating and a defeat at the hands of Mir Jumla, Ahom king Joydo Singh died in despair. So, in sorrow and grief, he died, and thus he was succeeded by Chakradhar Singh, who now took the mantle of the responsibility of defeating the Mughals. Then under Chakradhar Singh, he completely overhaul of the Ahom kingdom. People who had dispersed due to the Mir Jumla's invasion were rehabilitated to the appropriate khels. Food and military productions were increased. New forts constructed, garrisoned, and an expeditionary army was organized under a new commander, Lasit Borphukon. So the battle for Saraighat was prepared well ahead and was prepared well, and the whole restructuring of the army and an able commander under Lasit Borphukon, it was organized. Also, alliances were renewed with the Jayantia and Kosari kingdoms. During this period, the Mughal imperial demands were tactfully and diplomatically refused, and when the new Faujdar of Guwahati, Firuz Khan, forced the matter in March 1667, the Ahoms were compelled to move. So in August 1667, the Ahom army under Lasit Borphukon and accompanied by Atan Buragohai sailed downstream to retake Guwahati. So the Ahom army was sent to Guwahati under Lasit Borphukon and Atan Buragohai. Ahoms retake Guwahati. So Lasit made Kolyabor, the old seat of the Borphukon, his base camp and advanced towards Guwahati along both banks of the Brahmaputra. On the north bank, the Decca Phukon retook Bahabari in early September 1667. On the south bank, the Nausalia Phukon and others moving on land and water captured Kozali, Sonapur, Panikhaiti, and Titamara forts between the Kopili River and Guwahati. So the Ahoms slowly and steadily they reached Guwahati and they started occupying the forts and the various planks or banks on each side of the Brahmaputra. That is north and south bank. The Ahoms then reached Guwahati, which was defended by 5 chowkis on each bank of the Brahmaputra. In north there is Kanai Borokhiboa, Hillar, Hinduri Ghopa, Patduar, and Korai. In south there is Lotakhil, Joyduar, Thoramduar, Duarguria, and Pandu. With some loss, the Ahoms captured Shahburuz and Rongmohal forts a little north of the city. An extended battle was fought for the Itakuli fort. So the Ahoms captured the nearby ports and the nearby forts of Guwahati, and they garrisoned in and made their base camps near Guwahati. The Mughals, on the other hand, received some reinforcement at this point and retaliated against the Ahoms. The Ahoms fought back with their naval forces and removed them from their bases in Umaranda and Borhat. The Mughals, pursued by Ahoms, managed to fortify the Manamukh, that is the confluence of the Manas river, and fend off the attackers for some time, but Firuz Khan finally surrendered and was taken prisoner. This brought an end to the recapture of Guwahati, and the Ahoms were able to control their old Manas border once again. So the Mughals were pushed back to the river Manas. But this did not last long, as the Ahoms had to take a strategic retreat due to the advancing Mughal army under Raja Ram Singh. So This was a mistake which Ahom kingdoms made. They tried to push back the Mughals back from Manas River, but at the same time they had to retreat because there was an advancing Mughal army under Raja Ram Singh. So Mughal imperial invasion. Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb was informed of the losses on the December 1667, and then Aurangzeb commissioned Raja Ram Singh of Amber, son of the famous Mirza Raja Jai Singh, to take back Guwahati. So Ram Singh left on December 1667, but reached Rangapati in 1669. He was accompanied by Rashid Khan, an ex-Faujdar of Guwahati. So he brought a very huge troops of army and Rajput chiefs, infantrymen, archers, cavalry. So it was a very strong Mughal army. And the armies from Coach Bihar joined the Mughal forces because the Coach Bihar kingdom became a vassal or a subordinate kingdom under the Mughals. Now seeing the strong army of Mughal, the Ahom made strategic planning. Aware of the Mughal military might and the weakness of the Ahom militia, especially against the professional cavalry and mounted forces in open fields. So this was analyzed by Lachit Borphukan and the Ahom king that in open field battle, the Ahom army had no chance against the mighty Mughal army. So there was a change in the strategy. So we will study what the strategy was. Lachit Borphukan and the other commanders decided to choose the terrain of the battlefield with care. They chose the battlefield at Saraighat at its narrowest 1 kilometer width. That is, as we know, the North Bank, the North Guwahati and the Guwahati, so Guwahati city. So this width in Guwahati is around 1 kilometer. Whereas in the Upper Assam regions, the width of Brahmaputra is very long. Suppose it is around 5 to 10 kilometers at places. So, but in Guwahati it is only 1 kilometer. So it is easier to stop the Mughals in this region. When the Mughals found Guwahati impregnable by land, they would be forced to use their navy, which was their weakest. So the only weak point of the Mughal army was their navy. Now, Lachit Borphukan set up his headquarters at Andharobali, the sandbags between the Kamakhya and the Sukreshwar hills. The deliberations of the war council were recorded and made into a manual. When the Mughal Mars reached the Manas River in March-April 1669 and defeated some Ahom forces, Lachit decided on a strategic retreat to Guwahati. So, Lachit Borphukan waited for the Mughals with their planning in Guwahati. A period of battles. So Battle of Saraighat was not an isolated battles. There were many battles which occurred before that, small battles. So a period of battles between the Ahom and the Mughal forces in the region of Guwahati followed with varied results, with forts changing hands from many times. So in these battles, the Mughal forces were arranged in 4 divisions. The North Bank commanded by Ram Singh himself, the South Bank under Ali Akbar Khan, Mir Syed Khan, Raja Indramani, Raja Jayanarayan and Marul Khan. So also they were supported from the Coach Bihar kingdom. The Ahom defense on the other hand was arranged as below. The North Bank was commanded by Otun Buragohai and the South Bank was command of the Lachit Borphukan. So along with Lachit Borphukan, we have to remember the name of Otun Buragohai. In these attacks, the allies of Ahoms were the Garos, Jaintias, the Nagas, the Rani of Dorong and the Raja of the Rani region near Guwahati. And even the monsoon rains of 1669 joined the battle. So this was the Battle of Saraighat. As you can see, that this is the Mughal advance and this is the Ahom defense. A triangle was formed between the Itakuli hill, the Osoklanta in the North Guwahati and Nilasal hills in the where the Kamakhya temple is there. So this is a triangle which blocked the Ahom entry from this end. So this was the famous this was the strategy for the famous Saraighat battle. So final battle at Saraighat, the Ahom soldiers were demoralized. So as we have studied already, there was a battle of Alaboi just before the battle of Saraighat. So the Ahom soldiers were demoralized after the losses at Alaboi. Their commander-in-chief, Lasit Borphukon, and their admiral were both seriously ill, and the Noraraja, the son of the Miri Sondikoi, was in command. An encounter both on land and water ensued near Aswaklanta. The Ahom land forces under Laluk Borgohai Phukon worsted the Mughals, but the Mughal boats compelled the Ahom boats to retreat to Borhila, north of Saraighat. So the Ahom army or Ahom soldiers were on the verge of retreating and fearing of their life. So in that crucial phase, the Lasit Borphukon sent messages to inspire the soldiers. Then Lasit Borphukon was observing this from his sick bed, and in the gatehouse of the Itakuli fort. So during the battle of Saraighat, Lasit Borphukon was sick itself. Then at this crucial moment in the battle, when the Mughals were about to land at Andharavali, the Borphukon sent orders via Kotokis to all the land and naval forces to attack. He also ordered 7 war boats for himself and had Nodai of Kharangi carry him to a boat. And the entry of Borphukon transformed the Ahom soldiers. So it is said that the mere presence of Lasit Borphukon raised the morale of the Ahom soldiers. His small flotilla soon swelled with Ahom warships from all sides and smashed into the Mughal warships at Amrajuli on the north bank opposite the Kamakya hills. And a triangle in the river, as we have studied this triangle, and a triangle in the river between Itakuli, Kamakya and Aswaklanta was filled with men and boat. So the Mughals suffered the loss of 3 top-ranking amirs and 4,000 dead. The day of this decisive battle is not known for certain, but only it happened in the middle of March 1671. So date is very important. Battle of Saraighat, 1671. Now the impact of the battle. Now coming to the impact of the battle, the Mughals were pursued to the Manas River, the Ahom kingdom's western boundary. So at that time, the boundary of the Ahom kingdom was the Manas River. On the western side, the Borphukon instructed his men not to attack the retreating army, reminding that of Alaboi. So this was the mistake made in Alaboi. So this was not repeated. Now, after the battle, Lasit Borphukon died at Koliabor about a year later. And this was not the final battle between the Ahoms and the Mughals, nor did Guwahati remain with the Ahoms. However, it showed the might and the tactical capacity of the Ahom kingdom, and it managed to keep the Mughal empire from expanding in the east, on the eastern zone. Now the next important battle is the Itakuli Run or Battle of Itakuli. The Battle of Itakuli was fought in 1682. So this is another important date. You should remember it. 1682 between the Ahom kingdom and the Mughal empire. So who was the king during this period? Was the Supatpha or Godadhar Singha. The main battle was fought at a garrison island on the Brahmaputra, in which the Mughal Faujdar Mansur Khan was defeated and the remnant of the Mughal forces pursued to the Manas River. With this win, the Ahoms recovered the Kamrup region from the Mughals. Now, with the fall of the Itakuli, the Ahom kingdom quickly occupied the region up to Manas River and set up administration under the Borphukon with his headquarters at Guwahati. Lota Kota Ron. Now, this is another famous Ron. This happened in the year 1765 and under the Ahom king Rajeshwar Singha. Now, what is the Lota Kota Ron? Now, Jai Singh of Manipur made a personal appeal to the Ahom king Rajeshwar Singha in his court to help him drive out the Burmese from his kingdom. Rajeshwar Singha consulted his ministers and sent an army consisting of Mul and Deval Pikes in 1765, commanded by Horonath Senapati Phukon, to Manipur directly over the hills south of Soraido to reinstate the king Joy Singh. But the jungle was extremely dense, so that the work of clearing a road was laborious and time consuming. The troops suffered great hardship, lack of food, and many died from raiding Naga tribes and snake bites. The king ordered return of the king. Now this unsuccessful expedition came to be known as the Lotakota Ron, or the War of the Creepers. Now coming to the next topic, important treaties of medieval history of Assam. The important treaties are the Treaty of Majuli, Treaty of Osuru Ali, and the Treaty of Khilajari Ghat. Now the Treaty of Majuli, 1563. So these dates are very, very important. One question will come from this point. The Treaty of Majuli was settled between the Koch king Naranarayan and the Ahom king Sukamfa. The treaty followed a successful campaign against the Ahom kingdom led by Silarai, the general of the Koch forces and the brother of the king, which resulted in the fall of the Gorgaon, the Ahom capital. So this is very important, Treaty of Majuli. The terms of the treaty were the Ahom king would accept the Koch overlordship, the land of the north bank of the Brahmaputra to the west of Subansiri river were to be ceded to the Koch. 5 sons of Ahom nobles were to be handed as hostages. Hand over the elephant Khambring and the horse Paksirai. The Ahoms were to pay war indemnity, 60 elephants, 60 pieces of clothes, 60 maidens, 300 men, a red royal standard along with a gold silver. So these were some of the terms of the Treaty of Majuli. Now the next treaty is Treaty of Asurar Ali. The Treaty of Asurar Ali, February 1639. So this is another important date. 1639 was signed between the Mughal Faujdar Allayar Khan and the Ahom general Mumat Amuli Borburwa. The Ahom king was Susangfa or Pratap Singh. So according to this treaty, the boundary between the Mughals and the Ahoms was fixed on the Bor Nodi in the northern bank of the Brahmaputra river and the Asura Ali in the southern bank. So Ali means the causeway in Assamese, or the road or a path in Assamese. And this Asura Ali is believed to be the Rajgor road in the modern day, present day Guwahati, the causeway or the high Gor, which was existence till the 60s. So Asura Ali, this Asura Ali is believed to be the Rajgor road, which is in present day between Bhangagor and Sanmari in Guwahati. So the next important treaty is the Treaty of Khilajari Ghat. Now the Treaty of Khilajari Ghat, Tipam, was signed between the Ahoms and the Mughal forces led by Mir Jumla on January 23, 1663. The treaty brought Mir Jumla's occupation of the Ahom capital to an end. Now Ahom king was at the time Joydhar Singh. Now the conditions of this treaty were Joydhar Singh sent off Romani Gabhuru, where she was married to Muhammad Azam Shah, who was the son of Aurangzeb in 1668. Now she was named later as Rahmat Banu Begum. So we will study in the important contributions of women during medieval history about Romani Gabhuru. 20,000 tolas of gold, 6 times this quantity of silver, and 40 elephants to be made over at once. 300,000 tolas of silver and 90 elephants to be supplied within 12 months. 6 sons of the chief nobles to be made as hostages pending compliance with the last mentioned condition. So till the last mentioned condition is completed, then 6 sons were held as hostages. So these were some of the terms and conditions of the treaty, and these were humiliating for the Ahoms. Now the important revolts which occurred in the medieval history of Assam, the first is the Dondua Draw or Dondua Rebellion. So this question will come, one question from the revolts, one question from the treaties, and one question from the important battles will come in the Assam history. in the upcoming prelims. So sure shot, at least 2 questions are expected from today's class only. So students, this is a very, very important class. Please revise this part very carefully. So coming with the Dondia Rebellion or Dondia Draw. The Dondia Rebellion was a late 18th century uprising against the Ahom kingdom in the Borfukon's domain. Now, this is important. The rebellion was headed by Horodatta Bujorborua. The rebellion was headed by Horodatta Bujorborua, who with mercenary troops means rented troops, managed to occupy most of northern Kamrup. And the Ahom kingdom emerged from these rebellions much weakened. About 1/2 of the population of the kingdom perished and the economy was totally destroyed. Gaurinath Singha's successors, Kamaleshwar Singha and Chandrakanta Singha, were reduced to nominal rulers due to their own incompetencies. Now the real power was in the hands of the Prime Minister Purnananda Boragohai. So in the Assam history, Purnananda Boragohai played an important role in the medieval times. We will cover him in our important personalities topic in our next class, which will be the last class in medieval history of Assam. Now, as the power of Purnananda Boragohai increased, then the other chiefs such as the Bodon Chandra Borphukon, we have already covered in the last class how Bodon Chandra Borphukon called upon the Man or the Burmese king, which ultimately led to the collapse of the Ahom kingdom. So Bodon Chandra Borphukon was the viceroy of Lower Assam and was particularly opposed to the Purnananda Boragohai. So Dondia revolt was amongst the numerable rebellions which shook Kamrup during the reign of the Ahom ruler Suklingpha. So this revolt was instigated by the improper administration tactics of the then viceroy of the area of Guwahati, Bodon Chandra Borphukon, who controlled the Lower Assam. And it is believed that the subordinate officers of this viceroy and even himself used to offend the local people frequently, mainly due to their unique local dialect. So since Bodon Borphukon and the other administrators were basically from the Upper Assam area, so the local dialect of the Kamrup area was different. The Kamrupi dialect is used, and due to this, many officers offended the local people. So the residents of the Lower Assam, especially the Kamrup, were forced to tolerate several forms of insults and abuses by the administrative officers. The local inhabitants complained to Purnananda Boragohai, the Prime Minister, and the new king Suklingpha against Bodon Chandra Borphukon's torturous regime. B. Datta Chaudhuri and Har Datta Chaudhuri gradually assembled a group of Kosaris, Hindustani and Punjabi people who ultimately broke free from the administrative control of the Ahom regime. Now finally the entire North Kamrup slipped into the hands of the rebels. The Koch kings also supported the rebels in order to restore the Kamrup under the Koch kingdom, because earlier Kamrup belonged to the Koch kingdom. So while local people are of the view that the two rebel brothers made a bold attempt to gain their freedom for them, however, as per some historians, the rebel was organized by the people who spend their time in quarrels and fights and creating an unnecessary unrest in the kingdom, and that is why it is called Dondoya. Because in Assamese there is a term called Dondoya Manu, like Don Kori Bhalpai. So from that, the Dondoya revolt name has been given. So the rebellion was controlled by Kolia Bhumora. We know the Kolia Bhumora was one Borphukon of Sandikai family, as Bodon Chandra Borphukon was not capable of controlling the rebellion. The rebels were subdued by the strong practices embraced by Kolia Bhumora, who was a resourceful man. He restored Ahom rule by assembling a few Hindustani mercenaries derived from Ahom rulers, the Raja of Dimorua and the Raja of Beltola. So this was the brief about the Dondoya rebellion. Now the next important rebellion of the Ahom history, of the medieval Assam history, is Moamoria revolt or Panimua rebellion. the Mohammedan rebellion of 1769 till 1805. So these dates are important. Please remember the dates. The Mohammedan rebellion was the 18th century uprising in Ahom kingdom of present-day Assam that began as power struggle between the Mohammedans, the adherents of the Mohammedan Satra, and the Ahom kings. So the Ahom kingdom emerged from the rebellion much weakened. About half of the population of the kingdom perished and the economy was totally destroyed. The weakened Ahom kingdom fell to a Burmese invasion, which ultimately led to the colonization by the British. So as the Ahom kingdom was gradually weakening, as we have already covered in the last class, then the Muammarya rebellion happened. Then attacked by the Burmese invasion, and that led to the British arrival in Assam. So ultimately, this whole sequence happened and ultimately led to the collapse of the Ahom kingdom. So this rebellion was primarily among the Muammarya Pikes against the Ahom kingdom. So we have already covered the topic Pikes in our earlier class. So this rebellion was primarily fueled by the tension which was undergoing because of the Pike system. The Muammaryas were the followers of the Muammarya Satra that was predominantly Morans, but also included Sonowal Kasaris, Sutias, then Tatis, Koibotos, different castes, and also Ahom nobles and officers. So the rising Satras provided refuge for those seeking to escape the Pike system. The Ahom kingdom was thus entering a crisis as the Pike system on which the state was based was unable to adapt to the changing economy and the emerging social classes. The rise of the Satras was one of the reasons for the leakage of manpower from the Pike system, and as a result, the Ahom kingdom and the Satras came into increasing conflict. The Muammarya rebellion started during the reign of Swargadeo Lakshmi Singha and ended during the reign of Swargadeo Kamaleswar Singha. It continued for up to about 36 years from 1769 to 1805. So Muammarya rebellion is not like it happened one day. It happened for 36 long years, and there were many phases of this rebellion. So we have to understand the background. The Satra Ahom conflict, Srimanta Shankardeva, Mahapurush Srimanta Shankardeva established the Ek Horon Nam Dharma in the 16th century, which opened itself to all communities. The religion provided opportunities for social and economic improvements to common tribesmen, and the Satras provided a safe haven from mandatory labor under the Pike system. So those who were joining the Satras were like they do not have to join the Pike system. So it was a safe haven for them. The Ahom ruler saw a threat, and Shankardeva himself had to escape to the Koch kingdom during the reign of Suklangmung to avoid persecution. So the Ahoms were hostile to the Satras and especially to the Ek Horon Nam Dharma and to Mahapurush Srimanta Shankardeva. And this happened because the Ahom rulers they followed the Shaktism and Shaivism, and they constructed temples. So this is the reason they came in conflict with the Satras. This unresolved conflict finally exploded into the Muammarya rebellion. So this Ahom and Satra conflict resulted in the Muammarya rebellion in the 18th century that so weakened the Ahom kingdom, and this rebellion weakened the Ahom kingdom so much that it collapsed in the next century. So within 100 years, the Ahom collapsed after the Muammariyah rebellion. Now we study the first phase of Muammariyah rebellion. On September 15, 1769, Rag Neok, a leading disciple of the Satra, was flogged or insulted by Ahom officials for not supplying the required number of elephants. So by November, the Motoks led by the Rag Neok, Nahor Khora Saikia and his two wives promised the throne to three Ahom princes and with their help liberated the territory north of the Buridihing. So the rebellion began in 1769 itself. Then in November 21, after nearly 2 months, in 1769, the rebels occupied the Ahom capital and placed Ramananda, son of Nahor Khora, one of the rebels, on the throne. The Ahom king Lakshmi Singha was captured and kept prisoner. The rebels were inexperienced in statecraft, failed to usher in a new order. Instead, they began imitating the unpopular practices. Then, as some of the rebel officers took on the airs of the old nobility, many rebels were dissatisfied and, led by Govinda Gaobura, left the capital and reached Samuguri. Now, taking advantage of this, some of the old nobility killed Rag on April 14, 1770 with the help of Kuranganaini, an Ahom queen from Manipur. Now, in the events that followed, Ramananda, the rebel king, Nahor Khora, Radha, Rukmini, Astabhus Dev, the Muammariyah Sattradhikar, and his son Saptabhus all were executed. So, all the leading members of the rebellion were executed. After the capital was recaptured, the remaining rebel forces in Samuguri under Govinda Gaobura attempted to overthrow the king again. This movement too had the signs of a popular uprising. Now the main weapons used by the rebels were bamboo staffs and clubs, and this uprising was called Sekani Kopua Ron. So a question may be asked in prelims that what is this Sekani Kopua Ron? So please, you should know about it. Please revise this topic. So some of the rebels then retreated deep into jungles and continued guerrilla warfare under leaders like Lefera, Pramananda and others. One of the last holdouts, Nomal, was finally captured and executed. This ended the first phase of the Muammariyah rebellion. However, the second phase began in 1783. An armed group of rebels attacked Rangpur and Gorgaon. The rebels were repulsed and a general massacre of Morans followed that continued for a month and a half. So there were frequent killings and massacring of the communities or the rebels. Then in 1786, Harihar Tanti raised an army of Muammariyas and Dafla Bahotiyas. A contingent of the rebels freed Pitambar, a grandson of the late Muammariyah Sattradhikar, who was in the custody of Auniyati Satra. The rebels encircled Rangpur, that is the capital of the Ahom kingdom, in January 19, 1788. The king Goinath Singha and the inhabitants of the capital fled. The captured region was locally administered with Harihar Tanti in the north bank of the Brahmaputra, Hauha ruling Majuli, and Sarvananda ruling the Moran tracts from Bengamara, that is present day Tinsukia. Bharat was made the king. Coins were struck regularly in Bharat's and Sarvananda's names. Purnananda Buragohai tried to regroup but soon gave up and established himself in Jorhat, the vanguard of the royalist forces. So in 1792, English captain Thomas Wells of the East India Company came to the aid with 550 well-trained and well-armed troops. He occupied Guwahati on November 24, 1792 without any resistance, and on March 18, 1794 restored Rangpur to Goinath. So the British captain restored the Ahom capital to Goinath Singha. Now coming to the third phase. The third phase of the rebellion was very important because during this time the Muhammadiyas attacked the Ahom kingdom once again. Popai, a rebel, was killed in 1796 and Bharat, the rebel king, was killed in 1799. Sadia fell to the royalists in 1800. So by 1805, the rebellion was completely subdued or controlled. Despite many attempts in 1802 and 1806, Sarvananda held out from Bangamara. He was finally given the title of Borznapati and Motok territory conceded to him. Thus, the Mohammadia rebellion ended with the creation of a near independent Motok tract ruled by Borznapati and the near end of the Paik system. And these events finally led to the Burmese invasion and the arrival of the British East India Company to Assam, and thereby collapse of the Ahom kingdom. So students, this was the end of today's class. In the next class, this will be the last class of medieval Assam history. Medieval Assam history. We will study the important personalities of medieval Assam, important women contributors, Neo-Vaishnavite and Azan Pir also. So students, thank you for watching this video. I hope this class was very helpful. Thank you for watching. Thank you.